Morning, everyone, and welcome to the licence and the licensing panel hearing this morning. We'll begin by a round of introductions. My name's Councillor Amanda Pinnock. I'm chairing the panel. Councillor Homewood?
Yeah, I'm Councillor James Homewood. I'm one of the members of the panel.
Councillor Joe Lawson, one of the members of the panel.
The Council's licensed legal representative.
Hello, I'm David Stickley. I'm one of the solicitors that works for the Council, and I'm here to give the panel any legal advice they may require.
The licensing officer.
Hi, it's Stephanie Mashiter, Senior Licensing Officer.
The applicant, Mr. Mihat.
The Director of Company.
Thank you. I understand we've got one objection today from Councillor Scott, and later on during the application I will be reading the email that was sent in respect of that. So just to confirm today that it is webcast, so members of the public can see what's happening. Turning to the applicant and the applicant's representative, have you had an opportunity to read the licensing hearing procedure, which explains how the hearing will be conducted, and that you've understood the information provided? Thank you. So we'll begin by briefly going through the formal agenda, and then we'll launch into why we're here today in respect of agenda item 5. So minutes of the previous meeting that was held on the 1st of March. I was the only one here, I think, who attended that meeting, so I can confirm it's a true record. Any interest to declare, Councillor Homewood?
No.
No.
Thank you. Admissions of the public, as I've said, it's webcast. Any depositions or petitions?
No, Chair.
Thank you. We'll go straight into why we're here today. Item 5, in relation to application for the grant of a new premises licence in respect of M&G convenience store situated at 30 Church Street, Dewsbury. We'll begin by asking the licensing officer to outline the application.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to inform members of an application of the grant of a new premise licence, which, because of representations received, has been referred to the panel for determination today. On the 16th of February 2023, the Licensing Department received an application for the grant of a premise licence from M&G Convenience Store Limited, 30 Church Street, Dewsbury. A copy of this application, plan and location map can be seen at Appendix A. The licensable activities applied for by the applicant are as follows: sale of alcohol for off the premise only, Monday to Saturday, 5:30 a.m. till 11 p.m, and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. In discussions with the applicant, the hours were changed to below: sale of alcohol off premise, Monday to Sunday, 7 a.m. till 11 p.m, and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. However, the store opening hours will remain the same and open at 5:30 a.m. The applicant was informed that alcohol could not be accessible to the public between 5:30 and 7. Licensing were informed by the applicant that the store intends to have a beer cave, which will be locked outside of the licensed hours. There is also a previous licence at the applied address for which was cancelled on the 3rd of August 2020. A request for the previous licence holder, PRA 1602, and a copy of that application can be seen at Appendix B. During the consultation period, a representation from one of the ward councillors for Dewsbury East was submitted. This includes information of a planning consent which has been applied for the above premise for 15 residential apartments, and to confirm that will be above the actual shop. At the time of writing this report, and I can confirm as of this morning, no determination has been made on that planning application. A further councillor objected but offered to withdraw the objection should requested specific conditions to be agreed by the applicant. The conditions requested were agreed and signed by the applicant, and they're at Appendix C. The representation that was received considering the following licensing objectives would not be met should this licence be granted, and that was prevention of public nuisance, and a copy of the agreed conditions representations of the planning application can be seen at Appendix D. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So I'll move to the questions. I've got a couple of questions. So we've heard that 2 objections have been raised, one of them from one of the councillors who put conditions forward, which has been agreed by the applicant. But there's a second objection that still stands, is my understanding. The first objector talks about public space protection orders. It'd be really helpful if you could sort of explain what those are for us.
Thank you. So the public space protection order is something that the police can put into place for any town centre, and it helps us have certain rules and regulations around street drinking, safety on the streets. It also includes things like dog excursions on the, picking it up, things like that. It makes the town centre more a safe place. It is something that the police after enforce, and they will go out. So it's like a safety order to protect the public, certain conditions that the police are then are bound by to enforce.
Thank you. Just one more question. The second councillor who objected talked about public nuisance, public safety in the email, and she also indicated that West Yorkshire Police and Environmental Health may have something to say today about this application. Could you just confirm they've been consulted with and they haven't raised any objections?
I can, Chair. Prior to me attending this meeting yesterday, I did confirm with Richard Woodhead from West Yorkshire Police. He has no concerns over this application. Environmental Health do, and I can also confirm that the other 6 relevant North authorities haven't objected, including Public Health. They're happy with the application as well, following all the conditions that have been set, and especially the ones that have been outlined by the applicant in the operating schedule.
Thank you. I'll move to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. Councillor Homewood?
Yeah, I think this has been partly answered by the fact that the police haven't provided any commentary, but I just suppose, I don't know if you've got an idea to bring to life to us what the kind of situation is in that part of Dewsbury town centre. Is there, from your perspective, an issue with public nuisance currently in terms of the sale of alcohol in that area? Is that an issue at the time? Is that more an issue in the later hours of the night? I know obviously we've talked about the 5:30 till 7 a.m. I don't know if that's got part of the reasoning for that request to change those licensing hours. I just think, is there anything you can just bring for us to life? Because I know obviously all town centres potentially have an issue with drinking outside and those sorts of things, but just if there's anything you could, I don't know if there's anything specific about that location, for example.
So I actually had a similar question myself, and that's why I spoke to Richard Woodhead yesterday. I asked about that. In his opinion, or the police's opinion, there isn't a higher issue in Dewsbury as to, say, Huddersfield. It's just that Dewsbury met a certain condition years back that allowed them to get the PSPO. And that's the only reason they have one. However, it does, or it's supposed to help. The issue that we've got is the police being able to man Dewsbury as a town centre and enforce those conditions. But in terms of a town centre, there are no higher issues than there are in any other town centre.
Can I bring the legal officer in here, please?
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come in on the issue of the PSPOs that are in place, because there was something that were done in conjunction with legal services, so I may be able to have a bit more insight that will assist the panel. The PSPO for street drinking has been recently renewed, so there is still a need for it to be there as far as we are concerned. The process is that you need to consult, and if the consultation is positive and you meet the criteria for imposing a public space protection order, it can be put in force. So we've got one that's currently addressing the issues historically of street drinking in Dewsbury Town Centre. So hopefully that clarifies the present position. It's something that is still regarded as being a potential antisocial measure or antisocial nuisance that does need a public space protection order in place to deal with and curtail it. The way they work is, if you're in breach of the order, you're issued with a fixed penalty notice. It gets pretty much like the ones you get for traffic offences. If you pay it quickly, you get a discount. If you don't, it goes up. And if you don't, then you can be pursued through the civil courts in respect of the penalty.
Thank you. Councillor Lawson, any questions for the licensing officer?
Do we actually know how many other off licences there are in Dewsbury Town Centre?
I couldn't give you a number off the top of my head. It is something I could find out. I tried to run a report, but our system doesn't just pull out off licences. It will bring in everything. So it was a bit of a mammoth task to try and get yesterday for today. So sorry about that.
The applicant's representative, any questions for the licensing officer at this stage? Thank you. So we'll move over to you then for you to make your submissions and outline the application, please.
By M&G Convenience Stores Limited for a premises licence in respect of the premises at 30 Church Street in Dewsbury. The application has been largely unobjected to, save for 2 objections by Councillor Lukic and Councillor Scott. In respect of Councillor Lukic's objection, which I think is Appendix C of the report, that was a constructive, well-made objection, and my client was more than happy to agree to those 3 conditions dealing with issues relating to public nuisance outside the premises. Turning to the objection by Councillor Scott, which is at Appendix D of the report, the first point I would make about this is that the objection is based upon fears of Councillor Scott, and there are no evidence-based concerns that she has actually raised. In this vein, I would obviously comment on the fact that Environmental Health and West Yorkshire Police have not objected to the application, and under the 2003 Licensing Act, the responsible authorities who are consulted and their expert opinion, as referred to in the Thwaites case, is fundamental in respect of this application. I would also refer to the one incident of, or one specific fact of antisocial behaviour which Councillor Scott refers to, which is in the bus station. I'm not aware of exactly where the bus station is, but I am aware that it's not in immediate proximity to the premises, the subject of this application. In respect of the question of conduct by parties not within the premises, this objection is quite simply not relevant to this application. I'd refer the committee to the Section 182 guidance, paragraph 2.21, and the Kirklees Council licensing policy, paragraph 2.12. If I can refer to the Kirklees Council policy in relation to that, it says the Licensing Act or Licensing Authority recognises that the 2003 Act is not a mechanism for general control of nuisance, antisocial behaviour and environmental crime by individuals once they are away from the premises and beyond the direct control of the licence holder. And that mirrors to a large extent the Section 182 guidance issued by the government, which is of course, whilst not absolutely binding, is extremely persuasive and should be taken into account, or must be taken into account by this committee. The extra conditions raised by and accepted, but raised by Councillor Lukic, deal properly and adequately with the concerns of the conduct of parties immediately outside the premises, and any other objections which Councillor Scott has, I'm afraid, given that they relate to nuisance away from the premises and are not evidence-based, must be given suitable priority behind the opinion of West Yorkshire Police.
In terms of off-licences within the immediate location, this is a map that's been prepared by my client, which he's sought to isolate it. As the question's been asked, I'm more than happy to hand this in. This would be Mr. Mihat's. I think there's one off-licence within 200 yards, which isn't on this map. But if the committee would like to consider that.
You finished with your submissions?
No, ma'am, I was just allowing the councillors a chance to look at the plan before I talked over them. Lastly, ma'am, if I could just deal with the question of the public space protection order. The public space protection order actually, in my opinion, reinforces the application. The guidance I've referred you to makes it quite clear that the protection of public spaces is not within remit of the licensing committee, where there are other provisions in place and other organisations such as the police. And the fact that there is a BPSO in Dewsbury Town Centre actively managed by the police, it's been recently renewed, means that those concerns are being actively and properly addressed by the appropriate authorities, and it is not something which is or this committee needs to consider today. Ma'am, this is a responsible operator. The DPS has held a personal licence and operated at other premises for a period of some 20 years. If you look at the plan of the premises attached to the applicant, if I could just draw your attention to the plan, in the top corner there's an area which is highlighted in black, but it should be in red. That is a separate room which has been constructed within the premises. That is where the alcohol will be stored, not just for security, but for essentially controlling the supply of alcohol to persons who enter the store. If the store is open outside of licensing hours, that door will be locked. This is a operation which has been well managed, has been well thought out, and is going to enhance its business and not affect any of the licensing objectives which you have to consider. Ma'am, unless there's any questions, those are my submissions.
Thank you. I have a few questions. So you said the applicant's been running a business or this type of business for 20 years. Can you tell us a little bit more about the applicant and more about these premises in particular? How long has the business been going and what sort of experience does he have of selling alcohol? I think that'd be really helpful for the panel to help make a decision on this.
Well, Mr. Mihat runs his other premises in Sherburn and Elmet in North Yorkshire. It is a similar store. It's a convenience store which sells alcohol, and the hours are very similar to these hours. He's said he owned that business. He purchased it in 2002 and has been running it ever since. The business which is the subject of his application, Mr. Mihat has purchased within the last few months. It didn't have a licence. Until we received the report from the council licensing officer, we were not aware of the previous application for a premises licence, as the seller did not disclose that to us. But Mr. Mihat intends to, this is not an off licence, this is just an add-on to enhance the business and to provide a service to the customers of his business. But he is a responsible operator. If he wasn't, there would be objections from the police, and he's an operator who has been running this sort of business for the last 20 years without concern.
Thank you. So turning to the objections then. So we've had one from Councillor Lukic, who raised objections but put forward conditions which has been agreed by the applicant. And we've seen the 3 conditions there, which is within the bundle of the paperwork. The other objection from Councillor Scott, and I know you've alluded to it in your submissions, but Councillor Scott talks about various things that do need to be considered. I think as a panel we do need to consider what's been said. We have 2 ward councillors who clearly know the area very well, understand what the issues are, and what needs to be addressed and what needs to be considered. Councillor Scott talks about the likelihood of disturbance. He talks about nearby properties, so not just the bus station, but also nearby properties, surrounding premises, and how it might impact on residents who live there. And Councillor Lukic talks very similarly about issues in the area. But Councillor Lukic, in one of his conditions, indicates that staff, it's important that staff helps to prevent or report any street drinking directly outside the premises, and that's something that's been supported by the application, that that condition has been agreed. Can you just kind of explain how staff are likely to do that? So help to prevent or report street drinking directly outside the premises. Because I think that goes to the heart of what Councillor Scott's objections are.
Possibly used, but members of the public who purchase alcohol not to drink outside the premises and to move away. And if they don't, given those conditions, then they will have an obligation to make an appropriate report to West Yorkshire Police, as their continued presence would be a breach of the Public Space Protection Order.
And will the applicant agree to work with ward councillors? Because I think that's clearly threaded through the objections that are here, that they have concerns about the area, and it's important that everybody works together to prevent public nuisance and, improves public safety.
Chair, my client is quite happy to work with the ward councillors. As I said, he's a responsible retailer. He's not a fly-by-night. He's run these sorts of premises for the last 2 decades, and working with councillors and the local community is the key to running any successful business.
Can I ask about CCTV? Sorry, yeah. I was going to ask specifically about CCTV outside the premises to support what you've been said. So will there be CCTV outside the premises?
Outside the premises? The cameras are both inside and outside the premises, Chair.
Thank you. I'll move to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. Councillor Homewood?
Not a question, such just a comment on what was just discussed around the sort of the condition around staff helping with the protection order and reporting. I don't know whether it's clear to everybody else, but I think it would just be useful, not as a condition or anything, but just to understand what we mean by staff reporting. So, for example, do we just expect that if there are incidents that the staff would report that to the police via an online submission? Would they be expected to call the police? Would it be through to the licensing authority? I'm not quite sure what that means. I think it would be helpful just for the applicant to understand what that actually means in practice, because it could mean a number of things, couldn't it? From calling 999 to informing ourselves, via email at some point. So I know there will be differences depending on what, if there's an incident, then they might need to call the police, but I'm just not sure what it means to actually report those incidents.
I'm sure that there is a contact number available, and it is not in my client's interest to have groups of members of the public outside his shop drinking alcohol and congregating. It's not going to do his business any good. He wants them away as much as his licensing committee and as much as West Yorkshire Police does. So it isn't a 999 call, but it's not an email situation either. It would be the best possible means to communicate it to the police, if appropriate, to have those individuals dispersed. But it's not the sort of trade my client is looking for. He's got running a convenience store, and he's looking at alcohol being sold as part of a balanced shop, and it will be taken away from the premises, and his market is not to sell singles to individual youths who then congregate outside the shop drinking alcohol.
Sorry, Chair, I could just intervene there. Obviously, street drinking does become an issue outside the premises. We have a team in Kirklees called Safer Kirklees, don't we? And we work quite closely with them. We have the meetings every 6 to 8 weeks, and we do discuss issues in and around town centres, and we specifically have one for Dewsbury. So if you have had any issues, you can report them to myself and to licensing, and we can take it forward to those meetings where we do have the head of Safer Kirklees, we do have ward councillors, we do have other bodies that attend, and we can all work together and, you know, see what we can do with street drinkers. So we've always got that sort of form of support for you. So more than welcome to put any concerns that you have, rather than always just phoning 111. Obviously, if it is an issue, that is your first port of call. But if it's something that you have moved them on, but it's becoming a weekly thing where you're always moving them on, drop us an email and we can work together with Safer Kirklees and the ward councillors.
That's really helpful. Thank you. You finished your response to Councillor Homewood? Thank you. Councillor Lawson, any questions?
No questions.
I think, licensing officer, I think you've responded to things, but do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. So we have one main objector, Councillor Scott. Unfortunately, she can't be with us today, but I think it would be helpful to read out Councillor Scott's objection. So Councillor Scott says, sorry for the delay in responding. Yet again, Dewsbury has another application for off-licence premises in the town centre. I am normally very supportive of businesses setting up in Dewsbury. However, on this occasion, I am not. I feel strongly this should be opposed by committee. The following concerns I have are about public nuisance, the likelihood of disturbance and the effect on nearby homes. There are homes, brackets, flats, brackets, surrounding these premises. This area is already a cause of concern with antisocial behaviour in the bus station and will severely impact on residents' rights to live peacefully. Granting this licence would encourage partying throughout the night with an endless supply of alcohol readily available in close proximity. Hopefully objections will be made by West Yorkshire Police, Environmental Health and my two fellow local councillors. I worry that a congregation of people will happen outside the shop whilst using it, as well as socialising outside the premises, would add to the detrimental impact on local homes, including disturbance and prevention of sleep and impact on the town centre footfall. We want people to feel safe in our town centre, not in fear when accessing the bus station or surrounding shops. I ask the panel to refuse the application on the grounds of preventing public nuisance and the likely impact on local residents and the likelihood of disturbance through the night due to the proximity of housing. Please kindly attach my comments to the committee and I am more than happy to attend this meeting. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to attend. We haven't had any objections from the police, as we've heard, or environmental health or public health. So we're at the stage now where we're asking everyone to sum up. If there's anything specific you'd like to say to the committee at this stage to help the committee arrive at their decision. So moving to the licensing officer then, could you sum up?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this application obviously is for the sale of alcohol off premise, and I suppose for us it's what hours you feel are appropriate for the surrounding areas, and maybe just looking at that side of things. I do believe the applicant has considered what Councillor Lukic has wanted to put forward, and he's really considered the public space protection order when looking at his operating schedule. Thank you.
Over to the applicant's representative.
Thank you, Chair. I won't repeat what I've already said in relation to the committees. I'm sure that has been, or it has been noted and taken on board. The only thing I would like to reiterate is the judgment of Justice Black in the Daniel Thwaites case, which clearly states the position and priority of the responsible authorities, who are the experts who are consulted pursuant to the regime set out under the 2003 Licensing Act. And in this context, the experts are environmental health and the police, and there are no objections, Chair. And that's a fundamental point to be taken into account. It's paragraph 55 of the judgment, which I have a copy made available if you would wish to see it. The guidance is clear. The conditions which are agreed by the applicant and put forward in the first instance are proportionate, deal with the licensing objectives, and it's my submission that this application should be granted to a responsible applicant.
Thank you, everyone. So the panel now need an opportunity to consider what we've heard. So can I ask everyone to leave the room so that we can do that, so we can make our decision. Thank you. So this morning, the panel were asked to consider an application for the grant of a new premises licence in respect of M&G convenience store situated at 30 Church Street, Dewsbury. We've considered what we've heard very carefully today in respect of submissions from the applicant, but also very carefully information from ward councillors in relation to conditions that have been agreed, but also objections in particular in relation to the area. The panel's considered what we've heard, and we've taken the decision to grant the application as follows, and grant the application as agreed and amended as put forward today to the panel. So the sale of alcohol off premises, Monday to Saturday, 700 hours to 2300 hours, and Sunday, 100 hours to 300 hours. And also condition attached to that as agreed with the ward councillor as follows: not selling single container of high strength beer, lager or cider, staff helping to prevent and report any street drinking directly outside the premises, and a prominent notice promoting compliance with the PSPO. Safer Kirklees will be able to assist with providing that notice. And finally, to ask that the applicant engage, if necessary, with the licensing service in the event that there are any issues of concern, and that everybody works together. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for your time, and have a nice day. I should say as well, the decision will be sent out in writing as well to the applicant. So he'll receive those details very shortly. Thank you.